So you got through the first class of pseudos. Now we're going to go over a few more pseudos. These ones might actually be used a little bit more. And just to recap, we went over the first child, first letter, and first line pseudos. Now we're going to cover before, after, and focus, as well as the lang pseudos. The focus pseudo is allowed on an element that can have a keyboard event or accept user information. So this applies to input, text area, select, radio buttons, checkboxes, etc. So when you click on a text area, it quite often doesn't change, or it doesn't change much. If you want to change the input field, or I guess the text area field, when the user clicks it and is ready to type, you would use the focus pseudo. So let's take a look at this. So again, putting it into the style, we select all of our text areas with a focus pseudo, and as soon as we focus on it, it's going to add a 2-pixel solid black border. And here's the code. We just added a basic text area. Now let's see how this works. Click on it, and I get a 2-pixel solid black border. And now when I click out of it, it goes away. So when I'm focused in there and I'm able to type, I can type anything in here. But as soon as I exit, I'm not focused on it anymore. See where my cursor goes up here? It's actually focused up here and not inside the text area any longer. Many web developers will use this pseudo just to let their user quickly know which field that they're in. Now let's look at the lang pseudo. The lang pseudo is often used for changing styling or different languages, usually to add emphasis to the right word in the right language, but we don't have to be limited by a language value. And what I mean is, language is typically EN for English, SP for Spanish, FR for French. We don't have to be limited by just those. So as an example, I use the language of awesome, and this is going to select every div element with the lang attribute of awesome. And for every match, it's going to create a 1-pixel solid red border all the way around it, sort of like this. So we have a div, lang attribute, the value is awesome, bordered, I am. Then we have another div, no lang, not bordered. We can also do this and it's not going to change anything. And as long as the lang is equal to awesome and the lang is not equal to anything else, this will work. So to quickly recap, all we did was add the lang attribute up here. It will only work on div elements as we selected in our CSS, and the value has to match. I'd also like to let you know that you cannot use spaces, so you cannot write I am awesome and try to use I am awesome in your lang. Instead of using spaces, use dashes. This creates one word and allows CSS to look for that one word. So what I mean is, lang, my awesome lang, does not work because you have a space in here. Actually, you've got 2 spaces in there. So turn that into my awesome lang. Use dashes, and that creates one word. Let's look at the before pseudo. We can add content before an element shows its text by using the before selector and the content property. So let's look at this. We open and close our style. We're going to select all of our strong elements, and we added the before pseudo. Content, which is something we haven't looked at yet, is the content that's going to be added before the strong element. Looking at the code, we have before every strong element, the word notice will appear. Well, how this will show up very normally is this is how it would show up. Regular text, but the word strong would be bold, as it is in here. But what it actually displays is before every notice, again, we have our notice up here, strong element, the word notice will appear. We can do this with the after pseudo as well, and we're going to tap into that in just a moment. CSS will put your content before the word starts, but after the element. Like how the word notice is bolded above, and we didn't tell it to be bold. That's just because CSS put the notice word inside the strong tag. What the browser did was it inserted the word notice with a space inside of our strong element, when you would naturally think it would just do this. Instead, it did this. So your content is always going to go inside the element, and the same thing is going to apply for the after pseudo. So now let's look at the after pseudo. After is applied the exact same way as before, but the content you specify will be at the end of the element. So same thing, we selected all the spans, then the content that we want to add. So here we have span, who is this written by? And this is going to display, who is this written by? Written by me. All it did was take your content from your CSS and put it at the end of your span element. Typically, the before and after pseudos are used with, for example, a block quote, which can be block quote or Q. So this is usually used in a block quote. This can also be changed to the letter Q. So block quote and Q are typically the exact same element. Q is just shorter. And then we change our content and we just added a quotation mark to the before and after elements. You might notice that we use a slash in front of it. That's called escaping, and that's so that we can use quotations inside quotations. This is the exact same as this, where we use single quotations around regular quotation. We'll cover what escaping is and how to do it properly in probably JavaScript. If we don't, it's going to definitely be in PHP, since that is a very, very important rule. As you begin creating your websites, you will eventually find very nice ways to apply all these different pseudos. For example, if you started to run a publishing website and you wanted to start each new article with a great big letter, you now know that you can use the first letter instead of having to go in and style the first letter of every paragraph. And this just makes it a lot easier for you.